Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to continue our series in transitions, and this is about children leaving home. Stay tuned. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. We're talking about transitions today in our transition series. Say that 5 times fast. And this is on children leaving home, and more so importantly too, some things you can do before they leave home. So children leaving home can be a very emotional and challenging time for parents, and we got to navigate this transition from a full and maybe busy home to one that's just less so. So this time can lead to a feeling of lacking of purpose for a lot of people, especially mothers, from what we've seen in the stuff that I've read. And this feeling of lacking purpose or emptiness basically coincides with an empty nest. Aside from the basic advice of realizing that this transition is, what it is, that parent and child relationship changes and evolves over time. And that really, you should probably just look for what kind of relationship that you want to have with your child going forward in this new stage of life. I realize I'm no psychologist, so if you are really struggling with the emotional and mental side of this upcoming transition, or if you've already had a child leave the home, I suggest you go see someone that can really help you talk through that. What I want to try to offer today are just a few ideas on preparing either for when that child leaves, or if they've already left, some things you can still do, and for the financial future that we want for them to have, along with a few guardrails to plan for that unexpected. So number one, set up your teenager as an authorized user on your credit card. Now, before you go, hold on, that's crazy, why would I do that? It doesn't mean you have to give them the credit card, but you can at least set them up as an authorized user. Why would you do that? Well, by setting them up, especially a minor child, as an authorized user, they can't get their own credit card till they're 18 and not until they have income anyway. But if setting them up as an authorized user, you can do that as a minor. And they can begin to build a credit history. This is sometimes called a credit life cycle, or a credit life. And most lenders require that they have sufficient credit history before they obtain any sort of loan or financing. Ideally, you would do this on an account that has a long payment history. It's maybe something you've had around for a decade or two, and preferably one that has a good payment history. So that's number one. Number two, get them an estate plan. What does that mean? Well, when your child turns 18 and before they head out of the house to school, or if they just leave the house and go work full-time somewhere and have their own place, consider an estate plan for them and for you if you haven't got one already. A recent Gallup poll from 2020, this is crazy, but I believe it, found that a mere 46% of U.S. adults actually have an estate plan. And typically it's skewed towards the older folks. So the older folks, have people over 50, have estate plans more so than those under the age of 50. The idea here is that because they're now an adult, referencing your child who just turned 18, let's say, you no longer have the legal or healthcare power of decision making for them that you thought you once, that you just did, a couple months ago. And this can make a big difference if you have to make any sort of legal or financial decisions for them, or healthcare decisions for them, if they become incapacitated due to illness or injury or whatever. And instead, if you don't have this in place, you could be dragged through a very long court process of appointing you as a guardian for your adult child, which could needless cost you time, maybe a lot of money, and depending on what needs to get done for that child. So just as a side note here, this also includes a healthcare proxy, so that you, if you're appointed as your child's agent, you can make medical decisions. So there's the durable power of attorney and then the healthcare proxy. How do you get those done? You contact an estate planning attorney. Pretty simple. Just look up a local estate planning attorney, or get a referral from a trusted professional. Number 3, set up a bank account for them. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory, but it goes a little bit further than just setting up an account. Typically, this is going to be a checking account for most of us, and we want to give them a debit card associated with that for spending purposes, especially if they're off to college and they need, to pay for some basic things. You may not want them to be maxing out a credit card accidentally, so this is a good way to kind of start giving them some discipline around spending money and tracking their spending. This can also be done as a kid, right, with a joint account set up between you and that child for monitoring purposes, and also just so you can maybe have it with other banking that you might already have, so everything's on the same statement or same login, and you can see what's going on with their accounts. There's more transparency. That's number 3. Number 4 is to go online when they're 18 and create a My Social Security account. So what is that? Well, you go to ssa.gov and you log in, create a user profile with your Social Security number, and you can start to monitor your history based on what was filed under your Social Security. So if they've had summer jobs that they've had income for that was reported, or they've had any other part-time work that was reported, that's going to show up already on their Social Security. And what this also helps is so that there's monitoring in place, so that no one else can go ahead and compromise that Social Security number, which we've seen in various events over time where people get that compromised, and it's not a good situation. So if you haven't done that as a parent, it's also a good idea for you to do that. Just make sure your earnings is being reported to you and not to someone else. So these are just some blanket ideas as us as parents, but this last one I want to say is pretty all-encompassing, and it's something more so from a mindset that I would hope that you would continue to instill in maybe a minor child that's gearing up for leaving the home, but also one that perhaps is already left and on their way to school or full-time employment, and that is a mindset of a penny saved is a penny earned. And that's really all-encompassing. It's to be countercultural to the instant gratification that is so prevalent in our society, and start to instill in them the mindset that they don't need to live beyond their means, and that they don't have forever to catch up and save for a future that they want. You might have thought the same thing, that retirement comes a lot faster the older we get. And don't be afraid to share with them financial blunders and things that you've messed up on. That auto loan that was way over your budget and you didn't need the new car to begin with, or the speculative investment decisions that you made that ended up blowing up on you, and wow, shouldn't have maybe done that. Don't be afraid to share with them those things you've done, so that they can learn from that. And I think as long as you come from a place of care and wanting what's best for them, they're going to see that, and they're going to come back to you for that advice. So these are just a few ideas to get you started on planning for when your child leaves home, or if they've already left home, some things you can do. And that's it for today. Thank you, and until next time, keep doing life better.